Welcome to Real Talk with Real Taxpayers, where we stay awake in a world that wants you asleep. Awesome. So I've got Darshan here with me today. He's a transformational writer. He's a speaker. He's a poet. He's given literally over 1,000 talks. He's written 2 personal development books, over 2,000 poems, 2 children books. And he's on a mission to uplift and inspire everyone so they can be their own hero. And I saw your story like a couple months ago in Apex where you were in this crazy, surreal rollover accident and near fatal rollover accident. From what you said, you like swerved to avoid a deer and it like almost severed your hand and peeled back and split your head open. And you needed over 100 stitches to put it back together. And I've watched your journey after that, and it's been nothing short of inspirational because of all the crazy like positivity that you have. And I've really found that people walk away from moments like that and it either breaks them and, you know, they go into a dark spot and I've even seen people become like atheists or this or whatever. And there's people that take that moment and it's like a crazy inspirational moment that becomes part of their story. And you're embodying that. And I'd love for you to share that story here with us today from, you know, all the way from the beginning and kind of take us through that to the point of, you know, how is that impacting your life today?
Well, I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to be here, and thank you for having me. I mean, you're beginning this process, and I'm honored to be your guest right away, right at the beginning of your story, which is going to make such a big difference for people. So I'm very grateful. And what you said, I want to key in on it. You said accidents like this or big events like this can break people, and some people it does break. And I say the other thing. It will either make you or break you. And I wasn't going to let anything break me. And so it is making me better in every single way. And I consider this accident the greatest blessing of my entire life. And when I look at it from that perspective, then it has no choice but to help keep making me better and better and better. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Can you take us into like that moment, if you don't mind? Like, can you share like what actually happened? You know, I'm curious, like in my own experience when that, like I saw some crazy stuff and I just want you to like paint a picture of like that, maybe that night, if you don't mind, and take us through from start to finish and what you experienced at each part of it.
Well, I was helping a buddy of mine. He has a cabin up in Alaska, and his wife wanted to have him have some company. I live in New Mexico, the very bottom of the United States, and he has a vehicle and he wanted to leave it there so he didn't have to rent a vehicle each and every time he went to his cabin. So his wife wanted him to have company and he asked me, and I made a whole bunch of arrangements. I said, okay, I'll go. It's a 3,700 mile drive. So that plays into it because we were driving and he just likes to go and go and go and go. So we're driving and driving and driving and we had stopped for dinner. But the night before, because he just kept wanting to go and then we couldn't find a place to stay, only had about 3 hours of sleep and then get up, hit the road. And we're just going and going. And we had stopped for dinner. He decided to have some drinks, and I'm like, well, I'll just drive because I'm not going to have you be driving if you had some alcohol in you. And so we hit the road, and it's late at night. It's in the middle of nowhere. We're, I don't know, like 100 miles south of the Canadian border in Montana. And all I can tell you is because the memories come back after I started getting out of the vehicle. All I saw was a deer. And I immediately swerved. I just saw the eyes of the deer. And I just swerved. It's instinct, right? To avoid hitting the deer. And next thing I know, we're rolling over. Now, we rolled over at least twice. And I say at least in case I blacked out and I'm not 100% sure during one of the more of the rolls because we were doing 70 miles an hour or I was driving. And so, and I know it's at least twice, because after the first rollover and then the second rollover, I said to myself, well, I'm still here. Meaning I'm not dead, right?
Yeah.
I'm still here. And then at some point the vehicle came to a stop. I might have been blacked out at that point because I don't remember. The next thing I remember is literally helping the guy out that was now in the passenger seat, and we had to climb out through the windows somehow, and I can't even exactly explain it, but I was pushing him up with my legs because my legs were intact, and got him out, and then somebody pulled the windshield away a little bit, and I was able to climb out because I couldn't climb out through the window because my arm was broken. I broke this bone and this bone right here, the radius and the ulna, several bones in my wrist and in my fingers, about 6 bones. And although it's healed, you wouldn't believe the difference in the way my hand looked. The middle section here where you see that scar all across, and it actually goes around my thumb, almost severed the whole top of my hand off. Because somehow when the vehicle rolled over, the window crashed and broke open, and the top of the vehicle crushed my hand, and it was a mess. And so my whole hand was an absolute mess. I couldn't use it, but it didn't hurt at the time. I was in shock, of course, and I didn't know what was going on. I'm like trying to use my hand, and it isn't working. And I didn't even know my head was hurt. So my head was dramatically cut up. In fact, the whole top of the vehicle, the inside of the vehicle, is full of my blood from my head. And again, I didn't even know until I thought something's wrong with my head. And with my right hand, and I'll show you what my head looks like now, there's this scar here, and where they did surgery, they had to create a flap for extra skin to be able to close it. And the scar goes all the way back, and it took over 100 stitches to put my head back together. I'm just now starting to grow my hair back. But I put my hand on top of my head. I'm like, oh my God, it was full of blood. So here we are on a desolate highway in Montana at 11 o'clock at night. And here's one of the miracles that has happened. One of the people behind us in the accident, and I don't know how long it took him to show up, was an off-duty EMT.
Wow.
I mean, talk about miraculous, the hand of God, whatever. And so, whether it was him or somebody else who pulled the windshield away, and I was able to crawl out of the windshield, and I was shivering because of all the blood loss. And he wrapped me up in a blanket and just held on to me. And I don't know the guy's name, and I hope one day that one of my stories, that somehow it gets back to him and goes, hey, that was me, because I want to thank him for saving my life. Somebody called the ambulance. I don't know who it was. The ambulance came. They put me in. They started pumping me full of drugs. I mean, to relax me and etc. And I had called my lady and I said, hey, this is not a joke, because I'm always making jokes. I said I'd been in a very bad car accident. I screwed up my head and my arm. I use different language, but I'll keep it clean for the podcast, even though it says real talk. And so I'm telling her what's going on, and I didn't hang up the phone. So she got to hear the paramedics working on me the whole time. I get to the hospital, they start helping me, and I didn't understand why my hand hurt and why when they were pouring liquid, like my entire hand was road rash. This hand, it's getting better. You see that?
Yeah.
That's the little bit. This hand, which was way worse, doesn't have much except this little damage on my pinky. The whole entire thing was horrible, messed. It just was incredibly ripped apart. And so they're working. I'm going, why is my hand hurt? And he stapled this scar. Does it show up on the video? He stapled this pretty well. And then the emergency room I was in couldn't deal with my injuries. So he called all around to all different hospitals. They ended up airlifting me via jet because the helicopter was busy to the hospital that worked on me. So the next morning early, I was in surgery, and that's when they did all of the patch-up work on my head, and they did a marvelous job. My hand, on the other hand, literally, on the other hand, is not working too well right now. It was a lot of nerve damage, and so there's been tremendous pain. And when I try to move my fingers, it just hurts tremendously. Not so much the pain, unless I try to forcefully move my finger, then the pain goes off the charts. But over the first 6 weeks or so, 8 weeks, the pain was tremendous. And I was on tons of painkillers, and I had patches on my arm for pain and anything I could do, and I couldn't sleep. And the pins and needles in my fingers, if your hands ever fallen asleep and you know that pins and needles feeling, so I had that. And it was so bad, literally just touching it like that, I'd want to go through the roof. And there's still weird feelings as the nerves try to regenerate. And my fingers, it's like there's a glove inside my hand where when I try to, and the glove is metal, but when I try to move my hand, it's like the metal just stops my fingers from moving.
Yeah.
And that's what my story's been like. And on the front end of it, that's what happened. And then the rest is where all the miracles come in.
Yeah. I feel like that's incredible. That's a miracle that you even survived that, and your friend survived that.
He had a minor concussion and was treated and released.
Wow.
Right.
Incredible.
And he rented a vehicle the next day and drove to Alaska himself.
Wow.
While I was in the hospital. And of course I'm in Montana. I don't know anybody, so I'm all alone. And but I don't like a lot of people around me when I'm trying to recuperate. You can't sleep in the hospital anyway, because every few hours they're poking you, prodding you, doing blood tests, whatever. And so that was what happened in the hospital. I made friends with the lady who was helping her brother who was hospitalized. I had no clothes because they were all full of blood. And I made friends with her because she always saw me, and she said, what happened? And I told her the story. And on the day before I was supposed to go home, she went and got me clothes from Walmart.
Wow.
So I had something to fly home in. And she bought me deodorant and everything else because I was not smelling too well. I mean, that was just one of the miracles that happened. Getting brand new clothes from a complete stranger in the hospital. She enjoyed my humor. She said, how can you laugh so much given what happened? I said, what choice do I have? What am I going to do? Just lay in bed and crawl up in a fetal position? No. What happens to you, and all the rest you make up. All the rest is up to you. And so I decided right in that moment that I was going to be happy and that I was going to find a way to make light of this. And that's what I have been doing ever since. Making jokes about my hand, making jokes about what happened to me in the hospital. She laughed so hard. Her mother was there. They were so grateful because I cheered them up due to the mother's son and her brother being so sick. And that really made an impact on me. That if I can make people feel so much better while they were in such a bad shape, then that's probably what I need to do for the rest of my life.
I appreciate you sharing that. I know that's traumatic experience. In the moment, like when you were going through this, just thinking back to my experience, it's a lot of the insights came to me in hindsight, right? Like when you're in the moment, when you're in the pain, at least I didn't get that 40,000 foot view of the situation until later, and I went through all this stuff, but it was the time afterwards that I got to think back on what I went through and really reflect, that I started extracting these things and kind of putting the pieces together. So I'm curious to see, like, what did you extract afterwards? Like, did you have any like funky or weird experiences that you went through, or maybe like even beliefs? Did you really believe something or know something to be true, and then after this moment, like that completely changed? I'm curious about the spiritual side of this and what that did for you.
Well, thank you. Those are really wonderful questions. There's a lot of things that changed after the accident. It's one of the reasons I call it the greatest blessing in my life. So many things that I thought were important, so many shoulds, quote unquote shoulds, that I had in my life. I should do this, I should be this way, etc. All have gone away because they're no longer important. And that's a wonderful blessing in and of itself. I'm not like weighed down by all of that anymore, by all the things that I, as I said, should do, by people's expectations of me. None of that matters. Before, I had problems saying no to people because I liked being this good guy. I found out recently a lot of us that become good guys because we had rough childhoods, and so we want to please people. We don't want to create enemies or anger or animosity. We just want to be good people and gloss over everything, and including our own feelings. Well, I'm not glossing over my own feelings anymore. Like, when something isn't working for me now, I don't gloss over it. I just deal with it and say it, even if it's going to ruffle feathers. Because you know what? I'm living my life now for me. Before the accident, I was living my life for them. I was living my life for everybody. In fact, I shouldn't have even gone on the trip. I mean, there's no regrets. Let me be clear. The accident wouldn't have happened had I not gone on the trip. But I kept having second thoughts. It was a long story about we didn't leave on time. The whole thing was a mess, and I kept saying, I'm not sure about this. I don't want to go. I don't feel right about this. And the wife's like, no, you got to go. You got to go. And because I didn't want to say no to her, I didn't want to be a bad guy, I didn't want to look bad or have her think bad about me, I went. And that is one of the great spiritual lessons as well. Loving yourself first. I always talked about it. Now I'm actually doing it. Living life from love and valuing, respecting, and honoring, cherishing, and believing in myself. Not leaving myself out of my own life's equation. Taking care of me first so that I can now take care of others. And that was one of the most huge changes in my life. Now everything that I'm interested in doing starts with me first. And if it doesn't feel right in here, I don't do it.
I actually want to go deeper on that if you can, because that's that internal, I believe in that internal intuition wholeheartedly. And I think there's crossroads in our life that only make sense in hindsight. Only looking back can you uncover the symbolism and the gut feeling and realize, like, wow, that was a crossroads, because my life could have gone into two completely different directions. And I believe what you're describing is one of those moments where in hindsight, like, and to go deeper on this, like, I believe in free will in a sense where we get to make that choice, but I also believe like all of the outcomes of this are like, you know, pre-written in a sense of like not our choice, but the outcomes of our choices almost, so to speak. So talk to me a little bit about that intuition moment, because you've probably had a lot of time to reflect on that moment now, and I'm sure you've gone down the rabbit hole of what if I didn't, what if I did. So what did you extract from that rabbit hole? Like, and can, you know, I know for me, I'm like, of course I don't regret my decision, and I can imagine you don't regret your decision just based on what you've extracted from that. But How did that change the way you feel about those moments now? And what did you extract from going down that rabbit hole as well?
One of the hardest parts has been my hand, because we need it. They come in handy. I'm trying to get a grip on things.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. And it's so interesting because humor is such a big part of my recovery. And that's why I shared those two jokes to bring levity to this whole thing because it can sound so seriously. What I extracted is what's important. My life, what's important to me now is being happy, being fulfilled, being in the present instead of constantly worrying about what's to come or regretting the past. I don't have a lot of regrets, but there are a few, and I don't want to live like that. I just want to be here now. And I often thought, well, what happens if I don't regain the use of my hand? Literally, what happens? Well, I've learned to do everything with I am right-handed, thank God. That was another miracle. So I've learned to do everything with my right hand. I can put a pillowcase on quicker than my lady can put a pillowcase on with both hands. I say everything. There's a few things. I can't tie my shoes, so I have slip-ons now. Whatever. I can't really button up my pants because I can't grab the pants properly. Little things like that. None of that matters. What matters is that I'm here. What matters is that I have a gift now that I can share. What matters now is that I am taking care of me. Again, valuing, respecting, honoring, liking, loving, and cherishing myself so that I can take care of others better. That to me is the most important thing. And helping people. Veterans is, because I'm a vet, and there's 22 a day that kill themselves that we know about because they're the ones that are in the system. It's probably over double that take their lives. And if I can help reduce the veteran suicide rate by bringing laughter and personal development, and look, I've been injured too. Maybe it wasn't in battle, but I've got an injury that could last the rest of my life. And if a vet has it too, they can't say, well, what do you know? You don't have an injury. You weren't shot. It doesn't matter. The injury is the end result. What are we going to do about it now? And that's what I want to do. I want to turn these people into heroes. They were heroes. They put their lives on the line. The old saying is you write a blank check up to and including the price of your life, right? You know that. Your friends have gone through that from Ukraine. It's amazing. And so they're heroes, and now they can be heroes again with whatever is going on in their lives. If it's mentally, emotionally, or if it's physically, I'm going to help them. And that's the whole point. It's just shifting that perspective. And when they shift that perspective, when they do that turnaround, anything is possible.
100%. And more on the intuition side, how do you treat your intuition differently now than what you did before?
I listen.
Okay. Did it make you more in tune with that?
No, I was always pretty in tune. It just, my head was too hard. My ego was too big. I knew it all, that kind of thing. Even though I even wrote in my book about following your intuition or trust your intuition until it reaches its fruition. But it was intuitive not to go right on the drive. Something just didn't feel right, but I went anyway. So I listen now when I get that still small voice, that little hit that tells me go or no, don't go, do this, don't do that. I listen to it.
Even if it doesn't make sense in the moment, or you don't understand why it's telling you that?
I thank you for asking that, especially when it doesn't make sense. Because that's the blessing of the intuition. Because it knows things that we don't know. It sees from the 40,000 foot view. I got a little tiny hole on a black and white, screen, and it has full color HD, whatever the latest technology is. And it can see everything way in advance. And I have to listen. And so I do listen. Of course, I'm not perfect, but when I don't listen, I go, oh, well, that explained that, didn't it? That's why I
Yeah.
should have listened. That's why he was telling me this. But I listen a lot more now. Let me be clear.
Oh yeah. I can only imagine now. So being that this is such a blessing in your life, like and I think of that thing too, like the thing I went through, I would never trade not going through that again, right? Just because I don't know that I would have been the person I am without going through that. And I don't know that I would have gone down a path in life that I would have been proud of if I didn't go through what I went through. And on one hand, it's like I would love to for people to learn from my lesson and to not have to go through. But on the other hand, I think going through something like this is one of the ways we grow. So that's kind of like a conundrum there. How do you feel about that kind of conundrum for others? Because of course I don't want others to go through pain, but that like pain is the thing between us and growth in whatever way, and some it can make or break you, kind of like you said. So how do you feel about those, or how do you feel about that for others?
Glad you brought that. It's really interesting. For years, I tried to do everything to help people to not have pain. Leadership development, I did all this stuff, dozens and dozens of years. I didn't even have a TV for 5 years. All I did was read and go deep within to learn all the personal development stuff I learned, to be able to give the talks and to do the coaching and all the things that I did, because I just didn't want people to experience the pain that I went through. I wanted them to cut their learning curve. But it doesn't matter. People are going to go through what they're going to go through anyway, and it doesn't matter what I did. It doesn't matter what I said. They were going to have to go through whatever they had to go through. The old saying, I forgot who said it, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional, right?
Yeah.
So we're all going to go through pain. And so whatever, they're going to go through what they're going to go through, and I'll help them turn that pain around and turn that pain into their passion and start to move them forward so they don't regret it, but they embrace it in the present and take action as a result of it.
100%. Yeah. And do you have bitterness towards any aspects of this still, or do you have moments where you feel bitterness towards this, or
No,
you know none?
none.
I can feel that, and I know you're being genuine when you say that. I can genuinely see you have none. What do you
No, in
think's the
fact,
key
it's
to
the
that?
opposite. I
Yeah.
have goosebumps. I know it won't show up, but it's the opposite. I'm so grateful because now my whole life has a meaning and purpose. That pain has become my purpose, has become my passion that wasn't there before. It's so beautiful, I can't even put words to it.
How do you find the beauty in the pain?
Again, it's like I said before, it's just like, what choice do I have is what I said before. It's just the way I'm wired. Like, had this not happened, I would have been where I was before, and I wasn't happy the way I was before. Things weren't clicking, everything was hard. I was pushing and pushing, and I was burning the candle at both ends. I was literally burnt out. I was stressed. I was anxious. I was unhappy. I was unfulfilled. Now I feel like it's completely gone. I have an inroad now. I just left before this podcast to go work with veterans now. Never would have happened. I had nothing to, I had stuff to tell them. I could talk for 12 hours given all the experiences that I've had. That's not the point. But now I have something to hold on to and something they can visually see and say, I know what you're going through. We got this together. I can help. Together we can do this. That's the difference.
Yeah, I think like heaven and hell is also like not just something we experience like after life. I think heaven and hell is something that we can choose to live through in this world. And I think heaven and hell is like a lot of things. It's obviously comes after the afterlife, but it's also like a personal experience. Like we can put ourselves in our own hell, or we can put ourselves in our own heaven just by like the power of our thoughts and the power of gratitude. And I think you're a great example of the power of thought and the power of mindset for that. And I'm wondering, how do you pass that on to someone else? Like other than living through an experience like this, like how do you pass on that? Because obviously the message is it's like be grateful, like cherish what you have, be the authentic you. It's so simple, but for people like you and me, sometimes it takes like such a traumatic experience to just like snap awake and be like, oh, duh. Why, like, how do we help others with that without like just wishing them to go through something like this?
Well, the people that I'm going to be working with probably already have gone through a lot of it, and they have PTSD from either a physical or mental injury, seeing their friends shot up or killed, or what have you along those lines. But what you said is key, and then we'll dive into it a little deeper. Obviously, the gratitude, having an attitude of gratitude, being grateful for what we have versus regretting what we don't or being angry for what happened is huge. Having a sense of humor about it is also huge. Like, can you, for what, like take a step back from that, as we said before, that 40,000 foot view and look at it a little different? Like, how can you see this as a blessing rather than a curse? And it doesn't matter what they say. Well, I've lost everything. I lost my friends. I lost this. I lost that. Okay, great. So that's what you lost. Now we got to start focusing on what you've gained. And that's the key. Always on what we've gained and being grateful for what we have and even what we didn't lose. Look, for me, I could have died. I could have broken my neck. I could have broken my legs. I could have punctured my lungs. I could still be in a coma for all I know. But obviously I had a mission and I had to fulfill that. And so my time on this earth wasn't done yet. And that's what I'm saying. So I just took what happened and said, who am I going to be as a result of that? So when I help people to realize, all right, so this happened and all right, great, it sucks. Now what? I have a wonderful saying, so what? Now what? So all that stuff happened. Now who are you going to be? Now what are you going to do? Because if you keep staying where you stayed before, you'll never get anywhere. In fact, you'll go backwards, and God knows where that'll end up. And I don't want to see anybody killing themselves that could have been saved. Ultimately, people are going to do what they're going to do, but I'm going to do my damnedest to help as many people to feel better about themselves, to learn to like and love and cherish themselves, and to transform their relationship to what happened as a curse to a blessing.
I think that's really you kind of nailed the key to everything right in there. And the key being the now, because you can't live in the past. You can try living in the past. That's not gonna do any good for you. You can try to live in the future of what ifs and this and that. But really the only thing we have control over is the now. And if you take away competing with other people and you're just competing with you, and how much better are you now than you were 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago, yesterday, last week, and you focus on what's controllable for you in the now, I think that's one of the biggest grounding things someone can do, is focus on what can I do right now. Sure, the circumstance happen. I can, if I live in the regret of that, that's not moving me anywhere. That's not healthy. I can't change the past, certainly. I certainly can change the future, but tomorrow's also not promised, right? So the only impact we really can do is exactly what we're doing right now, right in this moment.
Talking about now, I have a saying, when you own yourself, your stuff, whatever that stuff is, now, N-O-W, you will have won. If you look at own, now, and won, it's all the same word. Yeah. When you own your stuff now, you will have won. So whatever it is, take ownership of it. Take responsibility. Whether you think it was your responsibility or not, it doesn't matter, because in the now, you have to deal with it. So I take 100%, that's the other key, 100% responsibility for that accident. In other words, I own what happened, right?
Yeah.
Right? Now, responsibilities are different from fault, okay? So I'm just saying, by taking ownership, I take charge. And when I take charge, then I can take the proper action And when I take the proper action, my life goes in the direction that I want it to go. Take responsibility, own your stuff, have an attitude of gratitude, and don't let the now, don't live in the past. Oh my God, so many people do that. And then they drink and drink because they don't want to feel. In order to heal, you have to feel. You got to grow through stuff. And that pain is a mighty motivator. I'm telling you. And so many people, like Tony Robbins always said, are more motivated by avoiding pain than by gaining pleasure. Right?
Yeah.
But if we keep avoiding pain all our lives, we're not going to grow. In fact, we'll grow backwards, if you would. And then we wonder why nothing ever changes, because we don't want to sit with our stuff long enough. And having to deal with this, like, well, what if I never get used to my hand back again? Like, did that thought come to me? Of course it has. But let me tell you the magic of it. It's those 4 words. So what? Now what?
Yep.
If I never get used to it, I never get used to it. I'm no worse off than I am now. But if I was never going to get used to it, whatever, I don't care if they cut it off. Because I can't do much with it now. Now, doesn't mean I won't be able to. Obviously, they're not going to cut it off. It's not, I mean, it might look weird, but it's not mangled. But it does, what I'm saying is I can do what I can do. And I visualize. Then there's the other key to answer your question. Every day I spend 10, 15 minutes a day seeing my hand being able to open and close. Because visualization and expectation creates the materialization or the manifestation. I need to create the handifestation.
Yeah.
And so every day I
that.
see it, and I go, okay. So I'm getting a little more use every day out of it. Like my thumb, I can squeeze now. Whereas before you had to push my thumb just to be able to touch my finger. Like push it. And then it would go right back. Now I can't bend it. I'm going to show you I can't do this and I can't do that. All I can do is, how do I do this? So you can, there you go. That's all I can do. Because there's so much scar tissue in there. So everything's so hard. So I did go through a minor procedure where they gave me a nerve block somewhere up in here and then put me under, and then they manually manipulated my fingers where I couldn't. And it lasted like 30 hours, and I could move my fingers.
Wow.
Right? But then they went back. So the next time they do it, God knows when that's going to be, I'm going to have them make a brace for me that just keeps my hand straight. And then we'll see what happens if after I take it off, if they want to go like this again, or if I have more movement. But it is what it is. Again, it's not the cards that you've been dealt. It's how you play the hand.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm playing the hand with the best hand that I got.
Yeah. Is that belief rooted for you in like religion, or like where's ideology of that come from for you?
It's not.
Or what is that rooted in?
It's not religion. It's just 20, almost 30 years of personal development and studying stuff. Like the first book I ever read was The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale when I was, how old was I? 19. I'm 56 now, 19 or 20. And it's just through constant reading and reinforcement of that and doing leadership development and speaking and coaching and all that. It's just who I am. It's nothing religion-wise. Let me be clear. Am I grateful I didn't break anything else? Am I grateful I'm not, in a wheelchair? Of course I am. But if I would have been, and no, I don't want to be, just to be clear, and universe, do not hear me wanting to be in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
I would have dealt with it the exact same way, because life would be so horrible otherwise. So to paint the picture of the negative, of how awful it would be, like life wouldn't even be worth living. And so it is worth living. It's an incredible experience for me right now.
Yeah.
So many beautiful things are happening that never would have happened. And I'm very, very, very grateful. So I deal with what I can deal with, and the attitude and the gratitude and the being positive and the being humorous, and to look at the other side, and that ain't happening. So
Yeah.
that's some of the tools I've been using.
And I know everybody's going to want me to ask this question, or if I was watching this podcast, I would want me to ask this question. But did you get an entanglement with the other side or anything, surreal or weird or anything that when you went through your whole experience? Or do you have any recollections or even feelings or memories or anything? Or did you see anything that you would say is from the other side or from the infinite intelligence or God or whatever you call that for you?
Thank you. And what a God, infinite intelligence, source. It's all
Yeah.
beautiful. It's all one thing. Not when it happened. It's like afterwards. No, I didn't see any light. I didn't feel incredible love and be given a choice to come back. I've read enough about what people have experienced. It is possible I experienced something and just don't remember. Afterwards, it's been more like having real conversations with God, having
Yeah.
like heart to heart saying, okay, God, who am I? What am I going to do? Instead of saying, woe is me, like, why did this happen? I'm saying, thank you, God, for this blessing. Thank you, God, for giving me this second chance. Thank you, God. It's actually more than, I don't even like the term second chance, because the first day you woke up after you were born, you had a second chance. And then a third and fourth. But whatever we want to call this, I'm very grateful for having this opportunity now, and have many heart to hearts like, God, if you don't give me the use, if I can't get it, like I go to occupational therapy twice a week, and I hold on to something which, it's like there's no other term, that's what they call it, it's a vibrator, they gave it to me. And I hold on to it for over an hour, sometimes 2 hours a day, to try and break up the scar tissue and give myself, nerve function back. But whatever it is, it is. Who I am is not my hand,
Yeah.
right? And so God speaks to me every day. I speak to God, God speaks to me, and it's every single day. That's really the best way I can describe it. Again, no tunnel, no light, no nothing.
Very cool. And then I guess the most important part of this is, so you talked a little bit about your mission to benefit veterans and benefit and help people that are in a dark spot through humor, through poetry, through coaching, through all of that. What does like the epitome of that look like for you when you look at the future? Like what if you could snap your fingers and manifest any outcome of your influence on people, what would that look like?
That is a beautiful question. Thank you for asking that. It's all been like forming now, but if I was to just answer, like go right out on the limb, when I say save veterans from suicide, reduce the veteran suicide rate, realistically, if I saved one veteran, that's huge. What if I could save 1,000? What if I could save 10,000 veterans? Is that possible? Yes, it is. Because speaking to thousands and thousands of veterans across this country, whether it's in VA centers, hospitals, or other veteran centers, and speaking to the disabled American veterans, what organizations or other veteran service organizations, and going to them and bringing them a sense of hope where hopelessness only reigned before. Bringing them a sense of, there is, speaking of light, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and they'll realize it's not a train. That they can truly do something, and suicide is not the answer. So whether it's through personal development, talks, or through humor, and humor especially, I really want to key in on the humor, because laughter truly is the best medicine. And it lightens people up so much. Because when they're laughing, they're not crying.
Yeah.
They're not sad. They're not depressed. They're not thinking about their problems. They're only laughing, thinking about, and then couple that with all the leadership stuff to help them to shift to their perspective from woe is me to always me. Like, I can do this. It doesn't have to be the way I keep thinking about it, because that's what's keeping them in the position they're in.
Very cool. It sounds like comedy would be a great stage too for that. Like
You
a
know,
comedian.
you mean as a comedian, and I thought about that a lot. Like, I currently do open mics, and I could tell you jokes all day and night. But at the same time, I am a veteran. Can you tell by the,
Yeah.
all gave some gave all, right? I am a vet. I spent 8 years in the Army, 3 years in the Army and 5 years in the National Guard. And I have a kinship to my brothers and sisters who served, whether it's the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, the Coast Guard. It doesn't matter. And so because I understand in a whole different way the level that they've experienced, the things that they've gone through, then I can speak to them. And I can speak to them like I couldn't speak to anybody else. And so just doing comedy for comedy's sake is fine. But it doesn't fulfill that piece inside me. It doesn't speak directly to my heart. Yeah, it's fun. I can do the open mic comedy and make people laugh, and people say, wow, you're funny, and they shake your hand, and that's good. But if I save somebody's life, it could happen through comedy. They could hear me say something. But if I'm going to do comedy, it's going to be comedy with a purpose.
Yeah.
Comedy with a passion, comedy with a commitment to help make a difference in this world, and not just comedy for the sake of comedy.
For sure. Yeah. Well, cool. And before we wrap up here, because we're almost coming up on our time, anything else that you want to share, or anything I didn't ask that you've really wanted to talk about?
You asked such really good, in-depth questions and went deeper and deeper into the certain subjects. Here's what I would say. Love yourself first. I mean, period. And if you say I can't, if you have any kids, now I'm not talking to you, Andre, right now. In general, I'm just talking to anybody who's watching. If you have kids, and the minute you look at that kid when he or she is born, and you look at those eyes, or if you have animals, if you don't have any kids, and you can see the beauty in their eyes, and you love them so very much, then I'm telling you, you have that love within yourself for yourself, because you can't give what you don't already have. And when you love yourself as much as you love those pets or those kids or that someone else, whoever that might be, when you feel that deep within yourself and you can't even imagine hurting yourself through food, through drugs, through alcohol, through whatever it is that is exactly the opposite of loving yourself, that changes in the moment. Because when you deal with a problem at its core, it doesn't come back anymore. And so many people look outside of themselves to love, for love, whether it's in relationships, and they go from relationship to relationship to relationship, and they always break out because why? You keep bringing yourself to that new relationship, and wherever you go, there you are.
Yeah.
Right? And so the whole point that I'm making is you love yourself unconditionally and feel that. And if you come up with, oh yeah, right, then sit with it. Do that work. Feel it. Like all the stuff that comes up that says, I can't because, all of that is a lie. It's all the survival mechanisms your ego used to keep you going, right? Because you needed it when you were younger. Maybe you were picked on. Maybe you were abused. Maybe it was physical, mental, emotional, sexual, whatever the case may be. All of that stuff You had to survive as a kid some way, somehow. And because you had to develop those survival mechanisms or else you wouldn't be here now, then those survival mechanisms don't have to run your life right now. You did them as a kid because you needed to survive. Now you don't. And that begins with love. See the lies, which are the survival mechanisms, that they are now, because you don't need to survive. It's time for you to thrive. It's time for you to start realizing that you are priceless, not worth less. Or as a lot of people think, worthless. They're not. Nobody is worthless. You are all priceless. In fact, you are an immeasurable treasure, and your value is so immense, there is no measure. When you take full responsibility for your greatness, your magnificence, your pricelessness, and live that way without exception, that's when you end all of those internal struggles. And once and for all, you can have the life you've always wanted. You see, you bring up comedy, and I know this is very serious. I'm going to use comedy as the entryway into all of this stuff. Because when people feel lighter and looser and comfortable and relaxed, then it's easier to share the deeper stuff.
Darshan, I really appreciate you sharing your story. I don't say this lightly, but it's really an inspiration to watch you. And I've had people in my life that, have gone through something traumatic, and they walk out of that in a darker place. And it's always very inspiring to watch someone like you just exude positivity and growth and happiness and alignment when you go through that. I think it inspires everybody that's in a dark spot right now. And I think what you're doing is really cool.
Being in alignment, as I say in one of my poems, being in alignment is your only assignment, right? Alignment trumps everything. That's first. Feel loving yourself and all of that, and alignment. When you feel good about yourself and everything will start to line up. And you're your number one obligation. You're your number one responsibility. For if it wasn't for you, it doesn't matter. There is nobody else. There is no wife and kids. There's nothing. It's just you. You take care of you, and then you can start helping everybody else.
Can't pour from an empty cup.
You cannot. I tried. And this is the part why I think it's such a blessing. My cup was so empty, and the more I tried to give, the harder and harder it became. The more depressed, sad. You keep saying you don't say it lightly, and I appreciate that more than you know. And you feel the genuineness and the passion, right? That wasn't there. Like, I could fake it. This is real. And it's coming from who I am, from the accident. Like, it shifted everything. It's 180. Not a 360 like people say, because then I'd be back in the same place. Right? Yeah. And so I feel it and I live it, and that's why it was such a great thing that's happened to me. And the 4 months after it happened, just for perspective, May 30th of 2025. And May 31st I was in surgery. And here I am as a result, happier than I've ever been in my life, because of the passion, because of the purpose, from the pain.
That's very important, because that was unlocked inside of you. You didn't have to you had access to it just like anybody else has access to that. And it's a conscious decision to intentionally practice gratitude and alignment and seizing the now. Yeah, and making the best of it.
Absolutely. Again, it's not what happens to you, it's what you make of it. Carpe diem, seize the day, seize the moment, seize the now, and watch what happens.
Amen to that. Awesome, Darshan. It was fantastic connecting with you. I'm sure we'll be in touch very short anyway. We kind of hang out in the same circle, so very looking forward to connecting with you. Yeah, very much so looking forward to continue connecting with you. And I'm sure we'll have another shindig like this before it's too long.
Absolutely, my friend. And I can't wait to learn more about your story as well. So let's rock and roll together. We make a big difference, because the sum of the whole is better. I mean, the whole is better than the sum of the parts. I'll say it that way. Together we can change the world.
100%. Now go live awake. And if this shook something inside of you, share it with someone still sleepwalking.